While reading about Ghatotkacha entering the Kurukshetra war, I noticed a description of his chariot decorated with the skulls of different beasts as trophies. It reminded me of a scene from the movie Predator. Curious, I searched to see if anyone has made a connection between Predator and Rakshasa. To my surprise, I found this sentence. What manner of creature was I facing? Perhaps that old Hindu Brahmin was right, and it truly was a demon, a Rakshasa. One of the race of evil gods cast out to Nirvana. And what kind of a fool would that make me, in even thinking I could defeat such a being? Edward Soames regarding the Rakshasa from Predator. Nemesis the Rakshasa, also known as Spring-Heeled Jack, was a lone yachtja in the 19th century who conducted hunts in India and England. Agent Edward Soames would be assigned by the Diogenes Club to track and bleep the hunter that was terrorizing the city of London after an encounter in Bengal in 1881. 15 years earlier, the Kurukshetra war raged on, a tumultuous symphony of clashing steel, roaring warriors, and the cries of battle. Amidst this chaotic theater of destruction, a massive iron chariot rolled onto the battlefield, its arrival heralded by a thunderous roar. The chariot was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Its frame was draped with crimson flags that snapped in the wind, their color matching the blood-soaked ground beneath. Adorning its structure were the skulls of various beasts, carefully arranged as though they held deep significance. Atop the chariot, a great, menacing bird-like figure perched on a raised platform. Its wings stretched wide in a threatening display, and its piercing cries sent shivers. Stranger still were the creatures that drew the chariot. They resembled elephants in their massive stature, yet their features were alien, as if they hailed from realms unknown. Their presence only added to the mystique and terror. Standing upon the chariot's high platform was Ghatotkacha, the mighty Rakshasa prince. His ferocious visage radiated an otherworldly power, his eyes burning with the fire of battle. A shining diadem crowned his head. Clutched in his massive hands was a great bow, as he stood tall like a celestial hunter preparing for his prey. The mighty and proud Ashwadhama, ever boastful of his valor and unmatched prowess, stood resolute before the fearsome host of Rakshasas and Yatadhanas. The battlefield shook as a great conflict erupted between these formidable foes. Ghatotkacha, the towering leader of the Rakshasas, fell from his chariot, struck down by the flaming shafts of Ashwadhama, whose skill with the bow shone brightly in the chaos of war. Ghatotkacha grasped a mighty wheel, its edges razor-sharp and adorned with resplendent diamonds and gems. With all his strength, he hurled it toward Ashwadhama. Yet, Ashwadhama's hands moved with divine swiftness, and his glowing bow loosed arrows that shattered the wheel into countless fragments, scattering its brilliance to the winds. In that moment, Anjanaparvan, the valiant son of Ghatotkacha, ascended into the heavens with a roar that reverberated like the thunder of tempestuous clouds. From the skies, he rained down rocks and uprooted trees, weapons of enormous power hurled with unearthly might. But Ashwadhama, unshaken and ever watchful, moved about the battlefield like a tempest, his blazing arrows shattering the onslaught into harmless fragments before they could strike. Incensed by his adversary's prowess, Anjanaparvan descended in fury, charging forth in a golden chariot that gleamed with otherworldly light. With unbridled wrath, he sought to strike down Ashwadhama in a single, decisive blow. Yet Ashwadhama, keen of sight and swift as a storm, rushed to meet him, unleashing his fatal shafts. In a deft maneuver, he stepped aside as the chariot, now burdened with the fallen Rakshasa, sped past him, vanishing into the swirling mists of the battlefield. An enraged Ghatotkacha soared into the heavens, unleashing a torrent of shafts that fell upon the battlefield like unrelenting rain. Yet Ashwadhama, steadfast and unyielding, countered each missile before it could touch the ground, his arrows weaving a golden web of defense. Beholding this contest, Duryodhana and the other Kaurava commanders hastened to Ashwadhama's aid. But Ashwadhama, filled with determination, raised his hand and declared, "Stand aside. I shall vanquish them alone." With this proclamation, Ashwadhama summoned his might and unleashed weapons adorned with golden wings, their edges gleaming as though kissed by the sun. Charged with potent mantras, these weapons tore through the Rakshasa host, their destruction swift and unyielding. The battlefield, ablaze with consuming fire, transformed into a scene akin to the cataclysmic end of a kalpa. The Kauravas could no longer discern Ashwadhama amidst the blinding conflagration, his form shrouded by the brilliance of destruction he had wrought. Undeterred, Ghatotkacha surged forth with unparalleled swiftness, roaring like a mighty lion. Mounted upon a thunderous chariot, he hurled the Asani bolt, a weapon of dazzling brilliance and fearsome power, directly at his adversary. Yet Ashwadhama, leaping from his chariot with a grace befitting a celestial warrior, caught the bolt mid-flight. With incredible dexterity and resolve, he turned the weapon against its wielder, casting it back with unerring aim. The retaliatory strike struck true, reducing Ghatotkacha's magnificent chariot to ashes. Ghatotkacha, with unyielding resolve, charged toward the chariot of Drishadumna, leaping aboard with the ferocity of a storm. Tuber, the Rakshasa prince and the commander-in-chief of the Pandava host stood united against the might of Ashwadhama, their arrows raining down upon him like an unending deluge. But Ashwadhama, undaunted, invoked a celestial astra of formidable power. The weapon flew swift and true, its brilliance piercing the very air as it struck Ghatotkacha with unerring precision. The bolt passed through his chest, leaving the mighty Rakshasa grievously wounded. With a roar that echoed across the battlefield, Ghatotkacha collapsed upon the floor of Drishtadyumna's chariot, his strength ebbing away. Seeing his companion fallen, Drishtadyumna chose to retreat, steering his chariot away from the raging fray. The sight of their commander-in-chief in retreat, bearing the injured Ghatotkacha, disheartened the Pandava armies, and they, too, began to fall back from the field of battle. Amidst the carnage, Ashwadhama stood triumphant, his form towering above a mound of slain. His fierce roar resounded across the battlefield. From the ethereal realms, celestial beings gazed upon the scene. They marveled at the prowess of Drona's son, their voices raised in applause.